What was the incident at your school? Our 45-year-old bank teacher left his wife for a 17-year-old student. He had kids that attended the school with us. Kid got pissed at someone during lunch and ran off screaming and crying and ripped a water fountain off the wall, then hid in the bathroom. I was taking a piss at the time and was confused at hell why 5 teachers and the principal ran in on me, lol. I used to hide in one of the bathroom stalls in the cafeteria during assemblies in high school since I hated going to them. I did this all 4 years of high school for every single assembly. I remember I was sitting in the stall and playing games on my phone when I heard someone slam the door open and multiple people rush into the bathroom. Someone started pounding on the stall door asking who was in there. I thought, oh no, the gig is up. They caught me and opened the door to see the principal, vice principal and campus security guard standing there. They looked at each other, said it's not him, then apologized and rushed out. Turns out the vice principal caught some kids smoking weed outside the side entrance of the cafeteria and ran away. When they realized they were caught, they thought the kids might have been hiding in the bathroom, lol. I've answered this before, but our school was small, 400 in the whole high school, but was K-12, so we all knew each other and grew up together, and the whole town knew about everything. I say this because over my 12 years there we had a nurse get fired for stealing kids' medications. The band teacher assaulted an 8th grader, and the swim coach got drunk and killed someone with his car. Also had the FBI show up because a kid threatened a bammer on Facebook from his mom's teacher computer. I lived in a quiet rural town. When I was senior in high school, a bunch of my friends decided to sneak into our high school at night and cut the tree in the middle of the school courtyard. This caused a huge stir for years. Local newspaper called this a gang initiation. There's no gangs in our town. Mayor was up for re-election, but lost because the opponent kept bringing up the street gang problem we had, which we didn't. Our local police started a street gang unit. My friends, we are 4.0 students. One's a doctor, one's owned their own fitness business, one a lawyer, and also in the National Guard. I mean, it happened a couple of months after she finished school, but one of the chemistry teachers married a pupil the summer she turned 18. Teacher with brain damage, mid-class starts acting a little weird, twitching, etc. He then starts mumbling incoherently, which got the attention of one of my peers across the room. My peer speaks up and asks teacher if he's okay. Teacher picks up a hammer, wood shop, and heaves it full strength at my peer. Thankfully it missed and smashed through a window and smashed another teacher's car windscreen. The woodshop teacher then screams, "Get out of here." We all run out of class and down the corridor. We stop when we hear a blood-curdling scream, and a few, including me, ran back to the room. The teacher cut his thumb off with a circular saw. I administered first aid, got his thumb on ice, and got counseling. Was forever called Tom Thumb. After Willen teacher was retired and got committed. Never heard from him again. One of my favorites was when 2 idiots decided the best spot on school grounds to smoke weed would be an elevator in one of the buildings. It was going great until someone hit the call button and strolled in expecting an empty elevator. That person, the school principal. Needless to say, they were suspended, maybe even expelled. I don't quite remember. English teacher was almost a victim of Son of Sam. She was walking home at night and, right before she got to her house, a guy got out of the same car he drove, started following her, but when she hurried into her house he turned away. She called the police, but he'd already left. When his diary came out, he was in the same neighborhood at the same time and date. I'm not sure if he described the incident or not in his diary, and yes, she had long dark hair at the time. In 10th grade Spanish class, when suddenly the teacher gets a call at her desk in the back of the room. Immediately, the whole school gets put on lockdown, and no one is allowed to leave the classroom. Turns out, a student in middle school joined JR/S a high school building, brought a supposed pipe bomb to the elementary school, shared a parking lot, and went in to ask if anyone at the school knew what it was. He had put the device in the back of his truck bed and parked right outside the entrance. Turns out, the father and the family had serious intellectual disabilities. It ended up being a small piece of PVC pipe with a cap on both ends. No explosives. He brought it to the school because this was the place he thought he could find smart people who could tell him what it was. He really meant no harm, but it was not a good decision. In 5th grade our school didn't let us go on the playground anymore and instead we busied ourselves usually playing sports on the giant field instead. There were these hollow plastic borders that, if you had a friend handy you could push around, and like any normal 5th grade class we decided to assemble these borders in a ring and start wrestling. Keep in mind this was overseas, so the recess monitors didn't really know enough English to tell us to stop, and didn't really want to intervene. Kids take turns going inside the ring and fighting each other, which led to 3 kids throwing up, one time onto another kid, 2 broken arms, and 1 kid cracked his skull. There was blood and fesses everywhere before faculty came running out and almost everyone got sent to the principals. I was one of the lucky few that managed to slip away. When I was in 9th grade, a teacher 1 year ahead of me was dosed with LSD in her coffee by some kid. That was way back in 1994. She had a real bad time living class. The next year she always had a cover on her drinks in class. In my first year of high school we had a class that taught all kinds of technical skills. So the classroom was part workshop, part normal classroom. This class was also taught by a relatively strict teacher. If you just worked normally and did your homework he was nice and relaxed. But if you didn't then he could be a real pain in the butt. We also had a student in our class who was the typical rebel, always talking back to the teacher, never having done any homework, being late every morning. You know what I mean. We had the technical class, and it was dead quiet. This particular student had already had a whole dumb discussion with the teacher about not having done any homework at all. So both of them were a bit on edge already, to say the least. All of a sudden this same student asks if he can go to the bathroom. The teacher said no, because the class would end in 10 minutes and we would have a break then. So he should go after class. And instead of just accepting it and moving on he started a huge argument about why he has to go etc. The teacher got really mad and sent him away to a special class where you had to go to when the teacher sent you away as sort of punishment. This guy gets up and goes to the back of the class where the door is, but then he suddenly stops behind a concrete pillar and starts pressing against it. The teacher loses his mind and starts screaming that this will be this guy's last day on the school etc. etc. He storms towards the student, drags him out of the room by his arm. We got up to see where they went, and I just caught them going into the office of the principal. This was in the same corridor. The student still hadn't pulled up his pants. Literally within minutes the whole school knew what had happened. The teacher never got quite as relaxed as before anymore with anyone. The student was banned from his classes and dropped out later that year. Have never heard from him again. A girl sprayed pepper spray at lunch because she thought it was perfume. They then had to send school buses full of the people affected to the hospital. She was brought to court where she admitted she knew it was pepper spray. The school sued her, and her family moved away. My best friend pooped his pants in 8th grade. He had math with one of the most popular chicks in school. He had to take a dump, but the teacher would not let him go as the period was just after lunch. When she finally let him go it was too late. My friend had a habit of wearing gym shorts with no underwear, and as he ran out of the class a turd ball ran down his leg and plopped on the floor. He said he cleaned himself up in the bathroom and started to head back to class, but the class was already lined up outside. Since the turd was a biohazard I guess, he then moved. Talked about this before some time ago. A kid insulted a teacher. She gave him a strike. 3 strikes and you get expelled. So the next day he brought in a knife with him to school to kill the teacher. Thankfully a girl noticed and told the school about it. The police were called, and apparently when they took away his knife he said fine, take it. I have more at home anyways or something along those lines. I don't know how the news didn't catch this, but also he was 10 and they wouldn't want to ruin his life. There was a rumor this girl got gonorrhea, and every time she walked into a room everyone would clap their hands. The administration tried to dispel the rumors, but they ended up making it worse. She had to change schools. Some kid in school decided to have a wank in class at the end of the day once he thought everyone had gone home. Our classroom was one of the classes which faces out onto the corridor, with windows facing out. He thought he could cover it up, but got onto one of those swivel chairs with his shirt off, so it was facing the door, covering him, pants fully round his ankles and on in a sock. He was just about to nut when everyone, including the teacher, came in to pick up their bags after a group seminar. Everyone saw and immediately cracked up like nothing before. I've never seen anyone so shocked. I felt sorry for that kid. He left the school after that, either expelled or by choice. I think the school felt so awkward about it that he was just politely asked to leave. Athletic director was caught on campus having an affair with a team physician. Both kept their jobs somehow. Fast forward a couple years. Turns out the director had been skimming money from the athletic boosters fund for years and got fired. We also had a nut job of a history teacher who was frequently erratic and unreasonable. She was taken out of her class by police one day and never returned, some kind of marital dispute she was running from. I'm actually involved in this one. There were bushes at my bus stop. I found a plastic toy rifle in them. You can probably guess where this is going. I showed my friend. He grabbed it and started pointing it at traffic. One of those people called the police and the SWAT team was called. I was none the wiser until they called us into the assembly hall later in the day and told us what had happened. This was only a few years after Columbine. The friend was absolutely a Kevin. Not a bad kid, just didn't think things through. One of his other antics included bringing the head of a lighter into school, playing with it during science class, and accidentally lighting a jar of rubber cement on fire. I have a couple incidents because I moved around a lot, but one of the nicer ones is there was a kid who was really anti-authority and wore, I don't know, goth kinda stuff, long leather trench coats, and makeup, and dyed black hair. Anyway, this kid had been doing this and was a loner for a year or two already. Senior year Columbine shooting happens. He comes to school dressed normal. Everyone asks him and he's like, I didn't want to be disrespectful. Goes back to his normal stuff in a week. Cut to later in the year. He's failing a class and he has no way to pass, basically, like only halfway into the year, and he's not going to graduate. Jed will be his only option. He goes to his teacher of that class, a super gruff Vietnam vet, who says wear a collared shirt and jeans for the rest of the year, dye your hair back, and no makeup, and I'll pass you. So he does it. Like less than a month later, everyone is sort of cheering him on and talking to him, and he's like, I don't know why I did that for so long. And he like makes friends and you can literally see him healing. Walked at grad with us. Some of the cool kids found an old service tunnel that ran under the music room and out to what I assume was the car park, although the door at the end was sealed up and we could never find it on the outside of the building. It was like a crawl space which opened out into a maintenance room of some sort which was empty. There was nothing in there, but they used to sneak down there to bunk off lessons and stuff. One day I went along because I wanted to be a cool kid, got stuck in the crawl space and had to be rescued by the fire brigade. The hatch got sealed properly and we all got detention. I wasn't allowed to be a cool kid ever again. I had an amazing physics teacher. He used the lab exhaustively. Every single thing we studied, he demonstrated: parabolic falling arcs, waves, momentum. He used strobe lights to freeze third oscillating waves on a soap bubble. He shot a wine glass and rigged a sensor to take high-speed flash photography, and I got to see firsthand a solid shattering vessel expel more liquid towards the direction of the gun rather than out the exit hole, just like the JFK assassination. So one day he's teaching app physics about liquid nitrogen. Tells all of them the properties of the gas that forms along the edge of the liquid nitrogen, so it forms a sort of protective layer. A person could even take sips of the liquid nitrogen and spit it out without it hurting you. He described exactly how to do it, having done it himself for years and in demonstrations. But that day he didn't account for the senior in the back row showing up to class stoned that day, so when the kid raises his hand and he takes the beaker of liquid nitrogen and asks what he should do, the teacher says, bottoms up. I wasn't there, so I don't know exactly how the kid reacted, but an ambulance came, the school settled for an undisclosed amount, and the kid may or may not damage stomach lining.